God's presence is here. So my story is, it's got a lot of oddities. And, but I'm gonna tell that anyways. I'm gonna tell it in its completeness. I'm gonna post it back that way. So when I, you looking for? Oh, no. Yeah. So I was born in New York, and I was born to, you know, my mom and dad. My dad was an electrical engineer. Lived there for 2 years. Moved down here and be in the space business. And we moved into a really nice house, brand new house, really nice neighborhood. But soon I realized that something, I didn't really do my big goal as being a child, but I didn't feel love. And my dad used to always, he wanted me to be a boy. And so I wasn't, and so that was a disappointment to him. It's the time when I started realizing that there was a lot of anger. And a lot of people, you know, thought everything was funny. And were white picket fence, but really what was going on. So I just remember that one time, these roses reminded me, one time I had picked him a rose from out in the garden. And you know how you take a really long time to get just the right one, you know, you're picking a rose. And so I picked it and I thought, but he came down on the porch. And the rose was there, and I thought, I don't get it. And what was his thing is, don't take roses off the bush. It ruins the way it looks. Which the reason I tell you that story is because that was what does it look like? There was a lack of love. And I remember my brother's 5 years younger than me. And when my dad would come home, we used to have the gravel driveways. And you could tell just by the way his car came in the driveway what was coming. And so, you know, I'd grab my brother and run him back, you know, so that he didn't. My sister, that's she passed away now, but she 2 years old. And so that was my life. My life was just a lie, is what it seemed like to me. At school, how it made me feel as a child is like I did. Something I didn't do, no matter where I was, I could be in a crowd of 100 people, something's wrong with me. That's the way I felt when I was growing up. And I did go to Catholic school, which was a blessing because the nuns were really nice to me. Yeah, like them. So they were very nice to me. But when I was about 15, I walked in on my dad blessing my sister. And I just was like, what is going on? And when you turn around and just go out, so I went and shared that at school to some. And they sent social services to our house. But my sister didn't want to say, she was afraid. And so when they came out with questions, she said, no, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. And so that made my dad extremely angry at me. And he had some friends, and what they did is invited me to go on vacation with them, Santa Cruz area. So I went up there, and then they just dropped me off. They kept going. And so I was homeless up there for about 6 months, and I was 16 years old. And I didn't know what to do. I called my mom and I said, you know, I don't know what to do. I didn't borrow money, I didn't have anything with me. Like a couple of changes of clothes, that's it. And anyways, she said, no, your dad doesn't like you anymore. And I hear my sister in the background saying, my mom said, no, he doesn't want it there. And I was thinking, well, what about you? You didn't want it, you know, but she. Anyways, I ended up getting back down here. But it's up north. Remember sitting on the beach? Yeah, it's tough. But this one day I was sitting there thinking, I was looking around at everybody at the beach, look at that family. They that was just but everybody else for this. So I made this deal with God. If you just take, and I go, okay, good. So then I went to sleep and I woke up and I'm still here. I wasn't even fun. I was still there. So I ended up making it back down here. To Orange County. And they took me in. While I was there, I ended up getting a car, getting an apartment, getting ready. Let's get going here. And so I met this guy. And he was gonna save me from my and anyways, I ended up marrying him. And soon into our marriage, not right away, but soon into our marriage, he started being on my head. Noticed that I thought he's amazing. What's the anger thing? So in the beginning, he was verbally abusive, but he didn't hit me with a physical. And then later, as time went on, he started being but stay up ended up having 3 children, a daughter and 2 sons. And one day he took me into the bathroom. This is a ugly part of what I do, but he took me into so I decided I gotta go. Like I can't do this anymore. If my kids come home from school, he's gonna kill all of us. So I started making plans to move. And at the same time, well, I started making plans to leave. So I got the most important stuff that I could get, put it in boxes, photos and stuff like that, and then gathered my kids together and just said, "Look, got it out." My kids, they don't want to leave. That's their dad, So that became a big thing. They wouldn't admit to me until my son just admitted to me he's 42. He's never been. So, anyways, we left. Well, it's been a big part of his life. A very big part of my. They supported me in everything that I was doing while I left. Instead of saying, "Why did you stay so long?" Their question was, "What can you do?" Which should be older. Instead of saying to someone, "Why do you keep going back? Why are you staying so long?" When I was with a lady one time. And I resident abuse and listening. There's a now a meeting with this week at my friend's house, his house. That's experiencing it. So it's not just women, it's men as well. Men don't like to talk about it as much because they feel like, how our society is. If you're a man, you shouldn't be getting beaten up by your wife, right? But it happens. Anyways, I forgot where I was now as I started. I was thinking of myself. But I'll leave it, right? And then another friend, they gave me their apartment. And so I had a 1-bedroom apartment for a month so that I could get my things together. In the meantime, I still kept my job because I had to have a job. So I used to be a professor. But I kept my job and it was It was literally the leading experience was so hard. I cannot tell you. I know where I was with this lady. She called the police came. And he said, well, it's easy, just gather stuff up you with your things and your kids and go. Well, I said, you know, why don't you go over and gather a few of your things? You know what I mean? Like that's not easy. That's your home. Gather a few things. I just it hit me like, but most of the time that is, you don't get all your stuff. One is the victim. So in the meantime, they were 3 teenagers. They didn't understand it. I didn't know because they did what's going on. I ended up moving my place of business to a smaller location. And at that location, I would do care for the women from the local shelters. I never did go into an investment shelter. I would say keep going, keep my stuff, enough stuff in boxes. That was supposed to be. I mean, that's how I started. And I just collected furniture. But he gave me a really nice apartment. So my kids started coming around, but there was so many times, like for Thanksgiving and stuff. I want to give you a little insight into this because all of us know families. Remember, I waited for them on Thanksgiving to do the turkey. They never show up. And it was so hard. It was so long. Both of my sons got and what I would do when they were young, they said be rather be. They just got the point like it's like, you know what, just punish me. And then, you know, let me move on. So I was trying to, you know, let's get into a rehab, let's bring solution. Anyways, they all got to high school. Okay. Graduated. It was a hard. Then my daughter, when she was, I think, she was 18, 19, she got pregnant. And so she had kids on. And she said, I'm going to keep the baby. And I said, okay. So she stayed with me for about 6 months. And I still remember. And she got put in juvenile all the time. She was pregnant. And so I would meet her at the my so, but I made her, they bring her in a, you know, cup. And, you know, obviously she's, you know, and I'd be her Mroz coach and we'd be doing everything. And she'd say, you know, listen, you're going to give us to me. You know. So there was lots of times like that. Anyway, she moved in with me after she got out of juvenile. She moved in with me and stayed with me until she could get her own apartment and a job. And so that's what she did. She got her own apartment and a job. And then she called me when she was in labor, and because I was her Mroz coach. And I remember getting in the hospital and them saying, do you need help? And I could hear her, like, you know, just right inside of the hospital. No, I think I know where she is. I'm not doing this. I won't use the colorful language she used. She was very colorful language. And so I got to be there with my friend. and she just gets such a gift. I just can't tell you. So after that, she got her own place, and her daughter was about a year old, and she was being stung by her dad. And he wouldn't leave her alone, and he wouldn't leave her alone, and he wouldn't leave her alone. And so I used to park outside of her apartment. I wanted her to come live with me, but she didn't. And anyways, there were police reports made. Well, one time, I'm going to tell this exactly the way it happened, because he was never charged. One time, I went down and walked into her apartment, and she was on the couch, and he had just threatened her and said, "You're going to die of a little white coat." And so she had died. And her dad was like over on the side laughing. It was the weirdest thing. He wouldn't even come into the complex. He was just laughing. And nothing could ever be charged because his fingerprints would be there. It's his daughter's. So I lost my daughter. And my granddaughter got taken. Well, my granddaughter went with his sister. His dad's from right? And then I found out they wouldn't let me do it because I had been in domestic abuse. So I couldn't take my granddaughter because they didn't trust me that I wouldn't take another abusive relationship. The courts, the system is really complicated. So anyways, she went with my sister's daughter and her husband. And they moved up to the mountains, so I would go visit her and things like that. But the relationship just grew apart. It just didn't develop ever really well. So anyways, then my son, my little son, was riding his bike out in the desert, by where Dad used to live, and he was hit by a car. And so I lost him and down. So this is all the bad stuff. God's coming, just don't worry about it. The hope is in here. It's coming. So I just thought, what is going on in me? It's just falling apart. I'm sure my kids are gone. You know, my friends are all having grandchildren. I don't even see mine. You know, it just seems so hopeless to me. I didn't understand. I just thought, you know, this is like right from the womb. You know what I mean? It's not like a bad patch. You know what I mean? It's like all along. It was like standing on the ocean and a wave hit you, barely get up, shake it off, and out of it. It's weird. I didn't ever not believe. You know, I believed, but I didn't get it. What is this all about? Okay, so here comes. So now I'm the director over OC United. It's the domestic abuse initiative. So I run support groups for women who are trying to get out of domestic abuse. I report with them, do things like that to be helpful. I go out to schools and teach the teens about things. During that time, my son comes to me and his dad, and we did all this. His dad was, he said, "Mom, Dad's out of hospice." I said, "Oh, that's too bad." And he said, "I can't be the one of this." Not that. So I didn't say, as I was there, I found myself looking at his hand. And it was done. And my son said, I have to go to do inventory of some things. Gotta go to inventory. And I said, I'll stay with it. I'll be here for this for about months. Yeah. And I'm gonna go in and I read scripture too early. you know, sing, I don't sing. I don't sing worship songs, stuff like that. And he couldn't talk or do anything. He had a stroke, so he was completely incapacitated. And my son went to inventory. And I remember the hospice nurse saying to me, he's holding on. And I said, I just sat there a minute and thought, I need to just be still. And he couldn't. I told him. I never told him. So I said, and he squeezed my hand a little bit, and it was just an amazing moment with them, because he would give me passion. Someone did so much destruction. That's not that can only come. The other choice is sickness. Bitterness does not. We have that. We do that with that choice. You know, because Jesus had other choice. That's why we have that choice. And to follow in his footsteps would be to forgive. It was the most amazing moment in my life. You could feel that. So then I started singing to him. I was singing to him in Mroz and Mroz a lot. And our son called me. And we went out and cried together. But that's an amazing thing. I want you to do that really loud and clear. We have the power to forgive. No one can make you forgive. No one. You can sit there and be bitter, but you know what? If I would have done that, I would have missed that moment. It was like beyond anything I've ever noticed. It's like the whole world was stood still. And God just was right there. I don't know if he's a believer or not. I hope so. That was hope when I was born. And he was a very restless soul. That it would somehow be believed. Maybe he isn't. Who knows? But anyway, so all of this led to me doing what I do today. And that's, like I said, a director at a really cool ministry where they have all different initiatives, homelessness, let's see, kids that are getting out of the system that have nowhere to go. They're 18 and they're just get shuffled back out into society, all different things. And for me, it's a blessing to be with any of the women that are leaders, because I know what it feels like. If I didn't know, I wouldn't be able to do this. So we were talking about GPSs earlier. If you wanted to go up the mountain, would you rather have someone that's been up the mountain take you up there, or would you rather follow your GPS? I'll take the mountain climb. Every time. So anybody in here who has a story, your story can be so helpful to someone else, but you have to tell them. And it's not pretty. But now I can do something that God's given me a job. Good things I didn't go to college or anything. So, you know, but I have a job. I have something I can do that came out of brokenness. If all that stuff wouldn't have happened, I couldn't understand the court system when I was there with the lady and she's afraid that I can't get my kids. But I mean, just be there. Just to be there. And to know she's not just messing around. This is bad. This is heartbreaking. So here's the last thing that I'll tell you. So I had no grandchildren. That was hard. until last year. So now I have a grandson. His name is James Dean. James Dean Mroz. And he is just such a blessing. And my son and his wife are both like 42. So they were 40 or something, 41 when this all occurred. And he's been such a blessing and be able to have that brightness in my life. My prayer when I left was that the violence in my family, because it goes back pretty much many generations. And in his dad's family, lots of stuff. I pray that this generation would, and my son's, and his son's. So sometimes it takes time to see it. You know, so I was thinking, I pray that it'd be free, I didn't even come in. You know, I meant here. You know what I mean? But God knew what he was doing. It was like just, hold on, the hope's coming. So my verse for my life is trials produce perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character hope. So I'm leaving you with a hope piece. Look for it. Okay.
Amen. Donna, just have we talked earlier? Donna, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. You think that would be easy to stand up and talk and share? I mean, just the brokenness. But Donna said that she's willing to take questions because I know as I listened to this story for the first time, I have a lot of questions. I never one question really had to do with what is that connection with God so strong? She showed. Yes, Dr.
So when I was in Catholic school, we used to do the stations of there, as Jesus as he was embrace, you know, that's what he was the only one I could see that cared about in all the darkness of my family and stuff like that. That's amazing. And so that's where the seed was. I stood up. Even if I didn't get it, I still believe. Any other questions? I'm pretty bulletproof. You don't have to worry about offending me or anything like that. But if you have a question, I would love to ask you questions. This is a valid story. Yes.
So has your son been able to open up about his dad and his journey?
Yes. This starting since his dad passed away, he's been opening up to me a lot and saying, yeah, I was abusive. How did you do that? You know, he's understanding now a little bit more. And he has a son. We're close.
When you were going through that, did your husband have died in this life before at all? No.
He said he did, but there wasn't any no evidence of it. He just talked. But no evidence. Very restless. So.
What happened with your sister that molested? No.
She ended up having a really hard time in life. She died of cancer a few years ago, but she never really matured. She never, you know, there was always this, yeah, I can't explain it, but she never really matured. And wouldn't talk about it. My mom. We were scared, but she also was a person. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that she's in and stuff, but she participated in not taking care of us. Because when I was up north, he wasn't scared I never did nothing over that, you know what I mean? She said, yeah, there's a bunch of here, so.
And who were these people that just took you and?
They were friends of my dad. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, I'm not gonna go to the police, that didn't go well. You know what I mean? And now homeless. So. I didn't know about this. I didn't know what to do. So I was just homeless.
And how old were you?
I was about 16.
And they just dropped it, and just,
Well, that wasn't the plan. I thought I was going on vacation. And we got like halfway, you know, we got to Santa Cruz, and they said, here's where you get out. And I was like, oh, well, are we all getting out?
Yeah.
No, just you. And I'm just being young, you know, like, okay, well, I guess this is where I get out.
And you see people that represent that time in your life. Do you send them to social services or, you know, because there's so many people that are kind of wandering around and appear to be lost all different ages. So, you know, it's a little bit frustrating to think about trying to direct somebody to a social service that might just put them back on the street or whatever.
Well, in our people that are, I don't know, you know, it's really hard to know what to do because we don't know their whole situation. And so people would feed me, but that's all I really wanted is just be all good. You know what I mean? But no one ever offered me like a place to go. When I see someone who's a woman who is displaced, I give her one of my kids and try to give them. Anybody else?
were you only married at one time?
Yes. Yeah, I'm too old now, just way too much to invest in.
They say you're never too old.
I know, but the investment, now that I know what a healthy relationship is, the investment is big, you know what I mean? I'm not as, as I used to be.
Could you run a little bit how you met Walt and how he assisted you and kind of.
I got Walt through his wife, Maxine. She was one of the ones that I did her hair. And then, I don't know if I should say this, but, well, I'm sure you told me before, their daughter, like, let's see, what was that? I don't remember, but I knew them. I had just done her hair the day before, and so they invited me to the service. And I just remember thinking, wow, if that ever happened to my daughter, I don't know what. So when that did happen to my daughter, they were there. And they would say to me, I get it. Because they get it. They get it.
Talk a little bit, if you would. You mentioned earlier about doing the girl doing your hair, younger girl. In the early days of the ministry, before you came under OCI and you had your own ministry, Grapevine, about your outreach you had.
People,
For the kids.
Christian.
No. shelter for young people.
Oh,
It was supposedly Christian based.
yes, can I think of that?
I can't either, and you did it for years.
Yeah, for years.
I have an excuse, I'm 80 years old.
I'm getting older, too, and forgetting it. Please. If I think of it, I'll say it, but I worked a lot with young people, young teenagers, because especially if they were having problems, I kind of would get it. You know what I mean? Like almost anything they talked to me about was like, that hurts. And so there'd be a lot of listening. I knew a lot of times you don't have to say it, you just listen, hear, and do that. And I can see the picture and everything, but it's a little, I can't remember the name. Anyways, I started doing their hair, and there was a man in my, that was sitting, waiting to get his hair done. And he said to me when he got in the chair to have his hair done, he said, do they pay you? And I said, no. And he said, well, I said, they just don't. They just don't. And they're going, if within their own places, they have problems. And they need to look good. You know, and so the girls will look, they didn't get their hair all done. Get their hair done and all that stuff. He said, how much would that cost? I said, well, I don't know. And so he said, well, I'm gonna ask my wife. I said, she did, she has that. I said, that's fine. So he calls his wife up. Let's check. We're over with you. And so then other people wanted to do that. So I thought, well, I'm gonna have to go knock on it. Because, you know, that's gonna be an issue. And so I started a ministry called the Grapevine. And the reason it was called that is because he's the vine and we're the branch. And so every time people would ask me, I'd be able to share the gospel a little bit. I shared the gospel a lot. It was really, really a beautiful, beautiful ministry. It went for a while too. That was a good run. 15 years. Then I got really sick. And my throat stuff. That's what happened. And I was in the hospital for quite some time. They gave me a medication that made my heart stop. So I died, basically, and then came back. And so when I came back, it was too late. I'd already given it to someone else who wanted to start a place called OC. And I thought, well, I guess so, because I don't know how good I'm going to be. Because my legs are so weak. I got hands came down. But I had to learn how to talk again, and stay with friends for months. You know what I mean? It's been a bit of a rough. But even then, I didn't have when people, you know, are having trouble with it. But that's how the ministry to Greenland started, was by that. And then I would do the ladies from the shelter that was right by us. I would do their hair. Just because they should get their hair done. I mean, why aren't they getting their hair done? Everybody else is, so, and it was too expensive. And even if they had some money, they didn't have enough, you know, to pay. And so that made two of the girls that used to work with me mad. Because they said, you know, you're not sure. You're gonna leave this place and go to the other one if you, it's a problem then. So that's what when I moved to the new location, they. So, I mean, I didn't leave them just high and dry. Gave them plenty of time. And they're still around back there tomorrow. Just recently. They said, well, I didn't know you were going to go all that. I said, no, I didn't say no, just going on either. So, yeah, so any other questions?
How was it left with your parents?
My parents is still a rough situation with me. They started setting boundaries. And my dad mostly it was, if you talk like that to me, the conversation's over. And he just kept doing it. So the conversation kept being over and over and over. And now there is no conversation. You just can't do it without telling me. he's got to be 90. And my mom, she just didn't want to take her lessons. Never did really get her. She's not really counts. And she's kind of the silent part in it. Because I used to say my mom didn't do anything. That's the problem. Like, let's talk. So we did some lots of things. So right now, my mom will text me every now and then, but they don't really want to have a relationship. They're not like, you know, hey, we miss you. Yes.
Process with the mother.
Yeah, there's a different process, and I've done it. But even though you've forgiven, if you still have a really close relationship with that person, it's really bad. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes the relationship is so toxic that you have to just stay with it.
Your working is there a place where most of forgiving, forgetting?
No. You shouldn't forget. You should remember. Because especially the forgiveness part of it, that only comes from the Lord. You can't do that. Okay. Just like I don't believe you can forgive yourself. Because I didn't die on the cross. I need to accept Jesus. I need to accept God's forgiveness. Oh, right now. I don't have, you know what I mean? Forgiving myself doesn't even make sense to me. Like, how do you do that? But I can accept his forgiveness for what I've done. If that makes sense to you.
I'd like to ask you one more question about your parents. So you said you went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
You were Stations of the Cross. So were you in church? Were your parents in church? Is
They were in church, and every time we're at church in the car, they talk about people. Praise the Lord. We happened to the happy family that was just sitting in church, you know what I mean?
Amen.
They like that. I was, as a young child, they were very, they were racist, they were everything. I remember thinking, wow, that's a lot of anger in that. You know, so I didn't like things from a child, but as a child, I didn't like it. I knew something was wrong. And I wasn't gonna go that direction.
Oh, here's a Spanish question.
My grandma, my dad's mom, I love her so much. Always did, I don't know. But the domestic abuse runs back about 4 generations. So that's all they knew. All they knew. On his side, it was his mom that was abusive to the dad. So there was women and men, but someone was getting hurt all the way through. And it wasn't okay with you. Yeah. Yes.
When you met your husband, did you know about your death abuse? Do you think that like do you think that sorry. Okay, so when you met your husband, did you know about your childhood and what you went through?
No. As time went on, he did. Most of the time, an abuser, whether they're woman, they don't pick weak people. They pick kind people. They pick kindness as a way in. But they don't necessarily, it doesn't mean if you were a victim of an abuser that you're weak. It means that because how do I explain this? Let me use like a little thing. Okay, so if the cat is chasing a bird, right? they'll chase it until it's done, you know, until they kill it. But at the end, if it's still flopping around just a little bit, then they go after them. That's how an abuser is. They run you down. You started flying and you're going along, and little by little, they get you down to where you're just kind of flopping on the ground. You're ready, you're barely there, and you've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten. I remember a counselor one time, she said to me, I was telling her some of the thoughts I was having, and she said, would you say that to someone else? That was. She said, why are you saying it to yourself? When you're meaner to yourself than you are to other people. Is that all that? And I didn't think about that. I thought, that's true. So I just thought I could kind of watch myself, catch myself. What am I thinking about? I'm not stupid. Ugly. We had a lot of stuff in therapy about that. You know, those are the things I was told the most about it. Ugly and stupid and things like that. So, you know, when you grow up with those thoughts, you just, if they start being in your head, and you're self-talking yourself that way. But I'm not stupid. That's not true. I wouldn't say that to someone else. So why would I say it to me?
What advice would you give to male or female was in a domestic violence situation?
I would reach out to me. You know what I mean? You should probably at this church have my number, and that is my number. So when they call, I don't call them back and go, hi, my name's Donna, I hope the domestic abuse initiative. You know, because maybe they're not wanting someone to know that, right? That might be listening. But reach out to someone who knows. And there's a hotline, a domestic violence hotline. But get out. If you've got kids and you're in domestic abuse, get out. It's one of the most things for a kid to be growing up in. You know, it's going down the next generation already. But get out. If you don't get your things, oh well, they're things. God will rejoice. Like, gather up what you can, and your kids, and get out of Dodge. And sometimes that means going to a shelter. If you're in danger, you should be going to a domestic shelter. And I can give you those names of the ones that I like the most. Yeah, but don't stay for the kids. Don't do that. Because a lot of people say, I'm staying for the kids. No, that's not happening. So staying for the kids is not, that's just a thing. But I can tell you by statistics, that is not true. It's not worth it to stay for the kids. They're gonna be hurt by this. They will be hurt. And even if they're not ever touched, watching your mom, let's say it's a woman, being hurt by your dad, it's not okay. Watching your dad be hurt by your mom is not okay. Neither one of them is okay. And so what happens is people say, oh, he's such a good dad. Good dads don't beat your mom. And good moms don't beat your dad. That's the same person. It's not like they have two different identities. You know, so if for nothing else, for the kids.
Donna, thank you so much. That way, we won't let you go away either. Because the second chance our tradition, and probably know, we give our guest speaker for something, and something of our appreciation. We thank you so much for the word that you brought, for the story that you're really sharing with us. Watch people when you get started giving them a lot.
I like it because it's right at the golden bag. The golden bag in.
Like that gold thing going with our food. What is it? I don't know.
Notice I didn't put the card aside and go directly for the golden. My God, it's really in here.
Yeah.
And they're really good.
I'll check it out.
Oh, there it is. Oh. Wow.
So if you want to show that, I'll tell them what that is. It's a kintsugi necklace. That's how I'm familiar with nothing, we're looking to put that together with gold, so it's a little piece of ceramic that's been put out with gold. There's actually another thing verse in songs that has to do with that, with kind of the broken heart.
I love that.
And we hope that you'll remember to stay with us when you wear that.
I will. I love this church. Wow, you're loving it. Okay, so just help me down the stairs. My feet like want to sleep almost while I was up here.
So what we're gonna do at lunch, we'll get some instruction on that in a moment. On your tables in the little house where you'll be having lunch, we have little cards that say, keep the conversation going. And there's some questions on there that you may want to discuss. Those at your table. Donna has left us with a lot of process and think about. And there's definitely a part of her story that just hits me and resonates with me. So there may be a part of her story that hits you as well. So we hope these questions will give you a starting place to talk with the folks at your table. Now, I did class master, if you have any remarks.
Introduce themselves. That's the one, you're in the back. You missed the opening remarks. We had people just stand, introduce themselves and say if they remember, if they're guests of some